Okay, we are starting session 2, which is on capacity building. Our first speaker is Professor Kishanbhai Bhattacharjee. Okay, then we will have Professor Narendra Kumar also talk about this. But because he has to leave a little quickly for the reasons may I share? Yeah, because daughter's results have been announced. Okay, so he has to, yeah, so I'm sure we understand that. So he will quickly summarize on the storytelling part and how he intends to give the capacity building. Please.
Thanks so much. This is like a historic conclave because after Trump pulled out of the Paris Agreement, it's the first environment conflict happening anywhere in the world. It should go down in history actually. And you mentioned more inconveniences. Please don't mention more inconveniences. I have spent all my life actually covering conflict in India and its neighborhoods. So I've spent my life on the field in much more inconvenienced situation than this. So I'm in luxury. While I was reading this little note that you gave, I must say that I have a little reservation when you said that the concept is to create a collaborative consortium of academia, community, policy, industry, and with academia playing a pivotal role. Obviously not consciously enough, you let the media out. And so I think that is the most integral part. Now, media right now has a very bad name all around the world. But that's because the particular media organization or the way the media is run or the ethics of media has eroded or has a problem, but media as such does not have a problem. It's like saying a doctor is bad, but medical science, there's nothing wrong with the medical science. So and media is the only force multiplier that we have anywhere in the world. There's no other institution, organization, nothing in the world in a democracy or in an authoritarian regime which can counter or which can question, which can actually bring change than the media. And that's why the media's role becomes integral out here. And media, of course, today is defined in various ways because you have social media. Everybody is a media person in that sense. I'll quickly tell you a couple of points which I thought could integrate into your concept of the neighborhood thing. I come from, like I told you, a different planet and world altogether. But what I found in my work on the ground was that society's problems are not going to be solved unless they are identified first. So it's like the doctor diagnosing the problem, and then only you can actually go for the diagnosis. And how do you identify problems? You identify problems at the grassroots level and through stories. That is how, even from ancient world, it is through storytelling. One of the best forms of social media that ever happened was not Narendra Modi or Donald Trump or Obama. It was actually Emperor Ashoka through his edicts. He would set up edicts all across the country, and that's how people would know what was happening. That's storytelling. The power of storytelling has been, the most powerful tool. What stories do basically is that punch holes in our subconscious and our conscious mind, and through those holes we get to see the world of the other. Otherwise, we are constantly othering. The othering is the biggest problem in the world. The biggest problem is actually more than anything else that we face today. Humanity faces is about the othering. So if we don't get anything, which means we blame the other. Now, to be able to negotiate that other, to be able to engage and all the other words that we use, the story is becoming an extremely important tool to carry that. And so when we were, when I joined media reportage, it's been 25 years that I have been reporting on the ground, there was enough revenue, there was enough money for us to travel. But what we failed, I think, what we did is that since we couldn't go everywhere, we used to have stringers on the ground. Stringers meant, people who would give us the information of the stories. We failed at that point of time to enhance their capacities. And today, when the whole revenue model has collapsed, when there is no money for us to travel or to report, and that is why not even 2% of India is covered in our the coverage. I mean, when was the last time you ever read or heard a story from, say, Lakshmi? When was the last time you ever heard a story from Vivek Bihar we are talking about, which is right now in Delhi? So there is a shadow zone and underbelly almost across, except for Latian's Delhi, a little bit of Dalal Street, and that is all that you get to here. There is nothing else that comes from anywhere, any part of the country. And conflict that I have covered sounds extremely sexy, but that's only when the bomb goes off, and the bomb doesn't go off every day. And keep counting dead bodies, but everything else gets completely obliterated by by those things. So the future of the world, I mean, this is an exaggerated way you may think, but I feel the future of the world can be changed, navigated through stories. This morning I read this wonderful story, and it just completely, it's going to touch everybody. It was in the newspapers this morning of this girl who got through the UPSC, who actually came from Rajasthan, and at the age of 5 was in a slum in Nizamuddin, I think, and after class 8, her father would sell clothes. He was a hawker, a vendor on the streets, selling coal, and then it's okay. And then after class 8, I think the family said that you cannot study, and she wanted to study, so she left home, took up a rental accommodation in Delhi, and then she would give tuition for 8 hours a day. She would help her studies. She actually managed to get into Jawaharlal University. She completed her Masters in International Relations, did her PhD, and then she got through UPSC. Now, this is a story from a Delhi slum. It's not, which can change the whole way slum children start thinking tomorrow. And that is the power of the story. And however much tutorials you open in the slum is not going to change things, but that just one story can change. There's another environment-related story, let me tell you, which by now it's become pretty popular and many of you would know. Have you heard of a gentleman called Jadav Payeng? Now, Jadav Payeng was he had a few cows and buffaloes, and not a few of cows, I think 2 cows, 1 buffalo. Inside a forest beyond, you've heard of Kaziranga National Park? So beyond Kaziranga, in an area, Jadav Payeng had a small little kuti, you call it kuti. Kutis are where you have cows and buffaloes. And he used to live his life comfortably. One fine day, he was on the banks of the river, Brahmaputra, which flows by Kaziranga, and he saw cobra, what do you call baby cobras? Baby cobras, okay. Cobra. Just in case baby cobras are another name. Babies of cobra actually died in front of him, a whole lot of them, because of the heat. And he remembered that when he was a child, that area had trees. And today there was not a single tree on those banks, and the cobras obviously died because of the heat. And Jadav, in his own way of being an environmental warrior, started planting 1 tree every day. And about I think 6-7 years back, I just stumbled upon him. I did not even know him. I went to do something else, and I met him. I did not know who he was. And Jadav, over 20 years, actually has created a whole reserve forest, and he's handed that reserve forest over to the government. Okay, now it is just, and these kind of stories are there across the world. And if you actually listen to the TED talk by Isabel Allende, just go to TED and just search for Isabel Allende, and she's got a TED talk on where she talks about one environmental warrior somewhere in Africa who also did something like that. Now, Jadav's story changes the whole scenario. So when you're talking about, it's not just environment, it's also skill building, it's also about inspiration. There's one last story I'll do before I finish, is in Tripura. Tripura, till about 5-7 years back, also had very heightened militancy. Tripura is a state, as you know, it has the highest, today it has the best human development indices. Okay? From anywhere in the country. It has one of the best chief ministers in the country that we have. It actually resolved insurgency. It even did away with the Armed Forces Special Powers Act. That's the only state that actually did away with that act. It's a very draconian act. Now, out there, many years, again about 10, 12 years back, I remember I went in one of the villages and I was showed that one man showed me rubber cultivation. And Tripura, from being nowhere in the rubber map, had become second to Kerala in India in rubber production. Now, why did rubber come to Tripura? Was not because for any environmental concern or for anything else. This man actually, what happened is that his entire, about 100 kilometers from his village were militant infested. It was on the international border. He had a chance, someone had told him to come to Kerala. He went to Kerala on a visit. He learned about rubber cultivation. He came back home without any government support. He actually started planting rubber trees. And the profit that he showed to his neighbors, that spread into 20 villages. And there were 20 villages at that point of time, I'm talking about, which was rid of militancy, not because of law and order, not because of police, not because of bureaucratic intervention, but because of rubber. I mean, how environment can also solve society's problems, and that's extremely important for us to understand. When I left active journalism, I mean, I still am a journalist, more than an academia actually. I still identify myself to be a journalist. I quit Daily News by 2013 and then started a foundation where we try and enhance the capacity of the grassroots journalists. Those stringers I told you whom we did not actually pay much attention to. We treated them like fixers. We just gave them money, we bought little information, bought little pictures, but we did not make them into journalists. And today, if we did that today, things would have been different, because every single block in this country has some boys or girls who've got a camera, who've got a laptop, they know how to send pictures, but they don't know how to identify a story because they live in that area. It's difficult when you live in that kind of a situation to identify, oh, this can be a story. To be able to teach someone to tell stories, and then actually let those stories amplify, is the only way where there can be action. Action cannot happen without a compelling story. You've heard this word. To tell a compelling story is actually the surest shot for any action to happen. I mean, often you've seen that there were stories reported in the newspapers. Newspapers have stories every day, but only a very few stories you have action, and those are the compelling stories that are told. So this grassroots journalism that if we can, whether we call it storytelling, whether we call it journalism, probably storytelling is a better way, because journalism has a problem. For example, you will not get FCRA money if you were to use the word journalist. Nobody loves journalists, nobody gives grants to journalists. So you have to tweak the word into some kind of, you have to mask the word. So if you do that, then you are also helping. Another thing is that journalism is not considered to be a skill otherwise. So in the government skill development projects, you have piggery, fishery, tailoring, etc., etc. They are no journalists. Journalists are not supposed to be skilled. So, and that is.
I think this will also help a lot of
People gain employment.
Employment and Facebook to unnecessary getting unnecessary information.
Absolutely, absolutely. In the world of post, in the world of post-truth and fake news, it's extremely important then to be able to guide them to. So it gives them skill, employment, and of course addresses the problem.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
I hope I've made enough sense to your. And I'm sorry, I need to just excuse myself. I'll catch up with you people and figure out the rest of the conversation. Yes.
Congratulations for your daughter's result.
Oh, thank you so much. I told her that I'll never show her my certificates.
So we can continue with the break for 5 more minutes, right?
Yeah.
And then break. Yeah. Sure. Yeah. Certainly. Yes. No. There will be full pictures with the names. There will be full.
Introduction. And whoever if there are any queries and you want to ask something, that will be a better way,
I think ma'ams are there, and you guys, whatever the query is coming in your mind related to the consortium formation and moving forward, I think
Right.
ideas and ask what any queries about it.
Any
How
kind of,
you-
any
how-
nature of.
So there is a station that totally worthless. Then what's the point of having an NSS? I mean, you can have as many credits being given for whatever projects, but those projects need to have not just an impact in terms of having a positive change being generated, but also making students ready to face the real world. I always tell these students, you will not get a second shot at an interview, and you will not get a second shot after screwing up the first time at your workplace. So what am I trying to do? What I am trying to make these students ready to be, on the mark from the first day that they join wherever they join. To be at their best when they go ahead for an interview, whether they get selected or not is another matter, but they need to show their best. They need to put their best foot forward. For that, I actually work with these students to delve in different media as well. Why? I think Mr. Bhattacharya had given an excellent example of why we need to be able to deal with delve in different media as well at the same time. In any space today, you have to be able to handle all things. You have to be an expert at all, not even a jack of all trades today. All-rounder in every sense. Trust me, I have worked with global think tanks, and what was expected of me. I was expected to write a PR piece as well. I am supposed to be a researcher, but I am also expected to write a PR piece. Why? Because nobody has that kind of resource to really spend for a PR piece. They will put it back on you as an employee to do it. That's where a lot of people get their first shot. If you screw up at your first shot, then nobody is going to give you a second chance again. So, without further ado, let me show you a video of what some of these students have learned and experienced. I'll also have Ankita and Mahima talk a bit about that later. And trust me, just look at the quality of work these people have done. This is something that the junior students themselves have prepared. So, I mean, for the level of skill and the kind of education that they ladder that they're standing on right now, I will leave it on you guys to decide.
Test in form of a questionnaire. This will also help us in improving the living standards of locals living within the local areas. This is a short questionnaire consisting of 20 short and simple and multiple choice questions. The questionnaire measures several parameters of a neighborhood: child friendliness, livability, walkability, security, healthcare, traffic conditions, and community support, keeping the major focus on child friendliness. Children are the most important assets of society, and their upbringing in a friendly environment must be ensured for proper development and for a promising future of the nation. And besides worrying about the future, we should also remember that there is someone today, no matter how small. So our model is a neighborhood scale, and the physical boundaries will act as a parameter. That is, the neighborhood should be walkable from one end to another. This psychometric test is a general one and can be conducted in different localities without making any modifications. So at the end of this conclave, we will be mailing you all the link to the questionnaire, and we request you all to fill up this questionnaire by the end of it.
Yes. So that's a very important thing. So if you don't get this link, that means we do not have your correct email ID. So this is one learning which we have from conclaves. We do not have the correct email ID. So if you do not receive an email, please contact either Seema or me to get the two picture.
The picture is there in my pen drive. Do you have that?
Yeah. So you start speaking and then we.
Pen drive, the name is there.
Hi, I am Ankita Kaushik, a student from Vivekananda College, University of Delhi. I am engaged with resilience relations since past 1.5 years, and we did many projects with the resilience relation, and I was a part of 2 projects named how to make public parks child and elderly friendly, and the second one was police public partnership. And through this, we got the opportunity to work with the Office of Mahesh Giri, Member of Parliament, East Delhi, in which we worked on the topic good governance. We were told to survey some particular slum areas and get to know about the particular problems they face. It may be sanitation problem, it may be any problem. So we were given that those questionnaires, and we had to fill those forms for them. And second part was we were given problem statement for one particular area, and we had to identify that it and connect with the government officials to implement the changes in it. And I'm currently pursuing a course of corporate social responsibility under RCGN, Resilience Center Global Network.
Go ahead.
Hello everyone, I am Mahima Kashyap and I want to express my, I want to tell you about my whole experience to Mahesh Giri, resilience relations and all that. तो सबसे पहले मेरे को कुछ नहीं पता था कि क्या होता है कॉलेज में जाके, तो मैंने something like मैम was my teacher that time, EVS पढ़ानी थी, तो मैम ने बोला लाइक तुम्हें एक प्रोजेक्ट करना है, मैं तुम्हें ऐसे कोई लिखने का कोई काम नहीं दूंगी, आपको सर्वे करना होगा 30 पीपल्स का, एक रिपोर्ट बनानी होगी समथिंग एंड एक पीपीटी बनानी होगी. तो बहुत सारे बच्चे बना रहे थे तो मैंने भी बनाई. तो उसके बाद मुझे ये पता लगा कि लाइक मेरा जो स्ट्रेंथ है कि लाइक मेरे को जाना पसंद है, घूमना पसंद है, तो मुझे वहाँ से ये पता लगा कि मेरी जो स्ट्रेंथ है वो सर्वे में है एंड आई लव सर्वे. और इस इंटर्नशिप में लाइक रेजिडेंस रिलेशन इंटर्नशिप में मुझे मौका मिला कि मैं महेश गिरी के यहाँ जाके इंटर्नशिप भी कर सकूँ. फर्स्ट मैम वॉज कॉलिंग में कि लाइक आपको जाना है वहाँ पे इंटरव्यू देना है, तो मैंने दिया एंड आई वॉज सिलेक्टेड दैट टाइम. एंड ऑल्सो वहाँ पे भी हमें अराउंड 200 पीपल्स का सर्वे दिया गया था एंड आई वॉज ऑल्सो डिड दिस दैट थिंग. और मुझे बस मैं आपको बस इतना ही बताना चाहूँगी और आप लोग यही जानना चाहते होंगे कि इस फ़ायदा क्या हुआ हमें, मतलब हमारे ऐसे बच्चों को जो हैं. तो मुझे ये लगता है कि मुझे अपनी स्ट्रेंथ पकड़ी मैंने कि मेरे में स्ट्रेंथ क्या है. आई एम वेरी हैप्पी टू टेल यू अबाउट लाइक व्हाट इज़ माई स्ट्रेंथ. माई स्ट्रेंथ वॉज टू सर्वे, टू इंटरैक्ट विद पीपल्स एंड दिस दैट वॉज ऑल्सो लर्निंग ऑफ पार्ट दिस इंटर्नशिप to express my views in front of you, and I'm sitting right now.
Here I would like to mention the expertise of Mahima, that now she frequently asked by Member of Parliament office to come and do some projects,
Yes.
surveys and all, because she is one the expert. You know, she can do 400 people survey in 1 or 2 hours.
So she can be a good data
analytics.
analytics. She can be a
She
good
is
data analytics.
amazing. And she got hired by Member of Parliament office just because
I'm
she had
actually-
Any other incentive they give you?
No, ma'am. Actually,
Take
मेरा
part there, working with the member of parliament, and you start off as an intern, and with time actually you can even get absorbed into the office itself. Then you start getting a salary, a proper stipend,
They take
give you
care
a
of
proper
certain
compensation
things.
with
I
benefits.
don't think so कि बच्चों को जो हम जैसे होते हैं कॉलेज में उनको पैसों की ज़रूरत होती है that
She has
time.
been
और
working from first year.
yes,
Now they are in third year.
Yes,
They were
third
in
year.
second year. Now they will be going in third
Third
year. So what do you expect
And
from a
another
first year
very
student?
important thing is when we
That's important.
one thing which is very important is, for example, you said analytics. That the biggest thing is the sampling technique.
Yes. Yes.
Okay,
I
sampling techniques.
I also learned the paper of public opinion this semester, fourth year semester, and I love that subject. And I want to be
Yes.
continue this subject. मैं ये बोलना चाहूँगी कि हम जैसे कॉलेज के जो स्टूडेंट होते हैं वो पेड के चक्कर में नहीं मतलब कि होते हैं लाइक, तो हमें बस एक्सपीरियंस का चाहिए, हमें एक्सपीरियंस चाहिए होता है. आई नो मेरी जो लैंग्वेज है वो पूरी प्रॉपर नहीं है, बट आई कैन
No, Mahima, you are
नहीं
doing
है
it.
एक्सपीरियंस जो
You
है
are
ना
doing it.
आपके कभी भी बुक्स में आपको नहीं मिलेंगे. These are the real life experience where you can
By the way,
explore yourself.
By the way, she got hired after 2,000 students got interviewed. So only 20 students got hired by Member of Parliament, and both of
And
these girls
now
are
also we were the two
and she speaks
people.
good
So
English.
that means
She
you are
is
very
very
proud.
yes, and also
Be proud of that. You are good in
Yes.
Hindi. Okay? First be proud of that.
of course we
Now
are also
she's
proud
very
and we are
Never be a problem.
हमारी मातृभाषा है वो एक
I
And
always
also-
tell her, doesn't matter. Language is not a barrier.
and also हमें को
Let me
बुलाया
tell you
गया
what
था.
I want
It's
to
always
cover
important.
point.
काम आना चाहिए.
Having
काम आना चाहिए और
field
आप
surveyors,
जिसको समझा रहे हैं वो समझ में आना चाहिए.
I mean, there was a professor who works in Uttarakhand. I mean, he does field survey. Trust me, field surveys are the most frustrating job ever for any research project in India. I mean, trying to get information first hand. More than 80% of the research project's budget and time actually gets spent only on this issue
Absolutely,
solely.
absolutely.
So having somebody who has an expertise in this area becomes one of the most valuable people
Yes.
coming out of any college.
Right.
You show that experience. There are survey-based organizations that are willing to hire you today just for this. I mean, when Mr. Bhattacharya was talking about stringers, these are the stringers of the survey world.
Yes, yes. And I'm
Their value today is immeasurable in every sense.
So, I think we can thank you, Mahima, Ankita, and
All
students for
Devika, Ruchika, and Kushan. Also the.
So now I think Rohit is the person who is going to talk about the greenology.
Just one thing, one observation. The ratio of the students is 4 women to 1 boy. What is
No, because this whole resilience thing led by women. The core community member is, most of them are
Let me just put
women.
it this way, women as environmentalists have proven to be much better than men.
So I'm sorry you're right, but it will have to feel like that.
Okay, just one more thing. We're just starting a WhatsApp group right now. Devita is going to do that. Okay, so what will happen is she'll get 5 numbers, and as a group admin, everyone will be a group admin. You can add your neighbor as well. Is that good? Okay, go ahead.
So Arnav, in this session, Rohit would like to speak because he is the chair, and Dr. Narendra Kumar sir
I think
is
we'll first let Dr. Samaj speak and then maybe second
I'm
answer.
just because he has a lot of things
Let
very
me speak
important.
first. I think.
Sir, please. Sir, is this?
Shall I take a seat and speak? Or shall I stand?
No need, sir. Please sit. Please sit.
I think you had very good sessions of earlier sessions where this conclave is to be built up. Sustainability conclave has to be built up in a sustainable manner. This is very important. So I just heard about storytelling. The storytelling has been renowned for the long times. This is the best way to communicate and to express your views and to understand even a person who is not able to understand properly. Even the illiterate people can also understand through storytelling. So telling through storytelling is very important, and that capacity building educators must have, should have, because we have to communicate with the community. And if the last man in the community is not touched, our purpose is defeated. So the way we have to link the technology as well as to create an environment suitable for our future, this has to be amalgamated. We have done a lot of researches, written a lot of papers, but implementing is also very much important. And that should be done by the NGOs. That should be done by the academicians. So this is a very good conclave, making a system which work, and this is going to work. Starting with NCRs, let's make our area very compact. Community, involving RWAs, involving NGOs, asking them to work, making small groups, work groups, making some WhatsApp group, communicating with them. This is going to be a major factor. Facebook, media, this is going to play a major role. What we have got, we know the problems. Problems is connecting with nature, which is the theme of this year's World Environment Day also. And many countries, many developed countries are going back. Like America, I was reading it just 2 days before. He has mentioned that we are not honoring the Paris Convention of climate change. See, the developed countries who are consuming more of the natural resources, they are going back on their words. They are not taking the responsibilities. We people in India who have been attached with the nature right from our roots, way back in 5,000 years before, which has come out in our even Mohenjo-daro and Harappa, Khudai mein jitna nikla hai. We were more tribals in nature, connecting ourselves with nature. We were not people who were exploiting the nature for our economic growth. We were also having a sustainable development. They are in our roots. So we should take the responsibility. Let anybody does it anyway. We should take the responsibility, take the leader as the world leader again in making the nature work for us and keeping our future generations secure. Whatever land area we have got, that should be optimally be used. See, Delhi NCR has got a very small area where habitats pressure is more. You are talking about East Delhi experiences where population pressure is more, area is less. I was listening to Madam, she was telling that the Vivek Vihar area is the greenest area. Asia. Having so much pressure of population and the habitats, greenest area. This is the people who work. I remember, now, this is coming, monsoon is coming. We can grow a lot of trees. How we can grow? Can we do the digging one by one and do the plantation? Is it a better way? Or some other newer technologies or newer methods can be, innovative methods can be developed for planting more trees. I remember one incident, again storytelling, spoken by our former President APJ Abdul Kalam. It was at Vigyan Bhavan on World Environment Day. He said, I am going to honor a young boy today in Kerala who has planted trees with an innovative idea. What was that innovative idea? He has traveled on a cycle, kept seeds of fruit growing trees in the back of his cycle, and he had made a attachment with his cycle wheel that once he pedal it, it start oozing out on both sides the seeds with the pressure. Before the monsoon, he will travel on the road, and wherever the seeds are falling, 90%, 80% are going to germinate once the monsoon comes. And if this method is adopted, all the roadside trees will be formed with the fruit-growing trees. Now, how we develop our habitats? Is this the way that we plant any tree or any plant wherever we want? There is some standards. Trees should have some distance where they can find the space to prosper. They have got a canopy. Shall we plant the trees just nearby? No. So it should be developed in a fashion that it should be sustainable for the plant and for the habitats too. I see most of the places which are lying barren are planted with trees which has got no economic value, does not feed the millions. Can we not plant the trees which are fruit growings or some vegetable growings everywhere? Of course, oxygen is being given by any plant because it's its property. But apart from that property, can we have something more? Can we find some more trees which has got more nutritive value? Some of the plants have been identified, some of the fruits has been identified. Can we plant it? Hundreds of acres of, I had a survey, I got the opportunity to see some of the places in Delhi which are owned by the government organizations. Some 110 acres, 350 acres, 200 acres, lying all barren, nobody taking care of it. And we are finding very little opportunity to see that how to get a land for our vision to multiply. So this is where the capacity building has to come up. Identification of trees which has got more nutritive value, fruits which has got more nutritive value, which are more suitable to the climatic conditions, that should be grown. In the British era also, they have got the planned development. If you see the New Delhi area, jamun trees, neem trees has been planted, the meadows were there. But are we doing it now? Are our PWD, the policy making people?
Exactly, I have a question here.
Yeah.
Do we have any say in such things?
Yes.
As academicians?
Yes,
people
definitely.
who
This
know?
conclave is going to help because we have got that chart which she has made.
Yes, if you look
Policy, conclave, the academicians.
Academia is
First,
first.
consortium is for this. We are here to make a change.
Yeah, like if you look at these parks in the localities,
Yes.
DDA parks and
Yes.
MCD parks, they have all eucalyptus trees. It's
Yes.
a monospecies
Yes.
system,
It has
which is
vitiated.
regulating the
Water level.
yeah.
Yes.
So what can be done about that? Are we going to uproot all those trees and plant new ones which have
It is
more-
possible. It is possible.
It's better.
Once you give them the option,
depleting? I know.
once you give them the option, the forest department has got the option to uproot it. We have given in the past some applications for pruning the trees to forest department, and they have uprooted those trees.
So, RWS can themselves take
Then-
the owners. They can themselves.
But with the help of forest department are now proactive. They are now very much proactive to do that. हाँ जी.
मैंने बहुत चीज़ ग्रो करने के लिए कहे और किए भी। होता क्या है, जितने हमारे फॉरेस्ट वाले हैं या नर्सरी वाले, फ्रूट ट्रीज को वो निकाल के डिस्ट्रॉय करते हैं। क्यों? उनका कहना है कि कॉलोनी में मंकीज का, दूसरे जानवर्स का आना इतना ज़्यादा फ्रिक्वेंटली होता है। या दूसरी एक चीज़ और, जितने हमारे मिनिस्टर्स हैं या एमएलएस, मतलब पोलिटिकल, वो क्या कहते हैं, जिसकी भी घर में एक पत्थर लगा बच्चों के साथ, हम एक छोटे से पेड़ के लिए अपने घर के शीशे तोड़ना पड़ता। सबसे मैं अभी भी एक बात कहना चाहूँगी, मेंटेलिटी चेंज करनी है।
Mindset has to be changed. See, this is the point, very valid point. The conclave will also understand the nitties and gritties of the problems of the people, the society, the neighborhood, and the mindset of the politicians and the people who are controlling it. It has to be changed. It has to be changed, and it has to go in the proper direction. So selection of trees is very much important, so that the entire area should be having a not only greenery but also has got some plants which has got economic value for the society in that neighborhood. Say one of the plant which everybody here must be knowing it, moringa. Every part of it is acceptable, eatable, every part. You know? There are certain other fruits are there where every parts of the trees are eatable, having vitamin A 10 times that of carrot, like that.
Sir, I would like to
So,
make a point here.
yeah.
I would like to answer your question, a very genuine question, and that's why, answering that, that's why we need to have a local level nexus, academia, industry, policy, community. Everyone should come together because these are the serious issues. आप किसी को बताएंगे, दूसरा आज़ादी नहीं होगा, बोलेगा फिर मम्मी हमें
So now forest people are also very much proactive. They are ready to change. They are ready to change.
आजकल जो हमारी मल्टी स्टोरी बिल्डिंग्स बन रही हैं उनके आगे ऐसे 4 ट्रीज हैं जो पुराने हैं। सबसे पहले जबकि वो आप वैसे फॉरेस्ट डिपार्टमेंट को कांटेक्ट करो आप नहीं कट कर सकते, पर जैसे ही बिल्डर आता है सबसे पहले वो रातों रात पेड़ कटते हैं। सब जड़ वो भ्रष्टाचार या वो एमएलए की परमिशन ना गई, फॉरेस्ट की परमिशन ना गई,
You take a photograph beforehand.
सब कुछ कर
आप कर लीजिए, वो अरेस्ट होगा, बिल्कुल होगा, क्योंकि एक पेड़ को काटना एक इंसान को काटने से ज़्यादा सजा ज़्यादा है उसकी, है ना। आपको पता है ना, लीगल स्टेटस एवरीबडी नोज अबाउट इट, बट यू टेक, आपको रिकॉर्डिंग रखनी है, यू हैव टू कीप द रिकॉर्ड।
अपना ये 20 साल का एक्सपीरियंस है।
नो बट नहीं होगा, नहीं, सोल्यूशन आर देयर, दिस रेजिडेंस सेंटर्स आर गोइंग टू टेक केयर ऑफ इट। अब आपको है ना एक मेजर, हाँ यस,
मैं इधर बोलना चाहूँगी, गिविंग एन एग्जांपल कि हम यहाँ पे एक बार मैंने बात करी थी कुछ लोगों से, कम्युनिटी में ही कुछ लोगों ने बोला कि मैडम इधर करप्शन बहुत है। मैंने बोला मैडम कि इधर हम करप्शन खत्म करने की तो बात कर ही नहीं रहे हैं, हम कौन होते हैं करप्शन खत्म करने के लिए, हम तो बस ये बात कर रहे हैं कि आपके लोकल एरिया के अब आपके एमएलसी हैं, आपके एमएलए हैं, उनके पास 10 लाख रुपया जो है एमपी लैंड फंड या 5 लाख रुपया है, उसमें से उनको 2 लाख खर्चा करना है, 5 लाख अंदर करना है, हम नहीं मना करेंगे, हम कौन होते हैं, लेकिन हम ये कहेंगे कि जो 2 लाख आपको खर्च करना है सर आप सही तरीके से कीजिए, सर आप वही पार्क का बाहर का बाउंड्री तोड़वा के नया पार्क मत बनवाइए, आप बच्चों के लिए कोई।
अच्छा, keeping in view of this, see corruption is one thing, the other thing is efficiency, that हम जो tax pay करते हैं, look at you will find money being wasted all throughout, okay, so how, for example, अगर आपको if you have to found out a place that it is inefficient and you have a solution to that, but can you as a normal individual go and take it up? So this is where Dr. Narendra Kumar is saying that resilience center for your locality can do it, कि एक बेकार में एक रेड लाइट है, एक बेकार में water is being wasted or a part could have been, so resilience center will take an idea which you have.
You as an individual may be very weak.
Localities are coming up with waste management center. I've seen defense societies, defense housings having lot of trees. पहले building बाहर बनने शुरू होते हैं, ये plant trees. Now defense officers are no environmentalists, but I think most people realize the significance of creating that green cover.
Absolutely.
Water, rainwater harvesting is there, plants are there, trees are there, and waste management.
Also burning of leaves
It's a common issue nowadays.
Yes.
It is illegal. Please raise awareness as much as
Take a photograph, send it to us. Okay, come on, I will give you a one simple solution.
If we plant drought tolerant species, you said species which are adapted to the local environment.
Local conditions.
So I think that is one of the way to ensure the success of this particular.
Correct.
And there is a proper an adage which says what get measured get managed.
Vanshu is an auditor, green auditor.
That is green audit. We go for it. It's a part of our conclave.
Correct.
It's a part of our resilience center to have a green audit of that particular area, and then once we are coming up with this sustainability index, है ना?
Correct.
So that index will be given to each and every society, each and every group housing society.
Considering the environment that we are in.
Yes, we are working on that.
India is a water stressed country.
Yeah.
So since India is a water stressed country, we have to ensure that our water resources are being used properly.
Yes. Especially grey water. Amen.
Kumar has raised a very good point. Let me just, without criticizing anyone, if we have palm trees in our college campuses, I'm sorry, you are the biggest culprits on this planet.
Yes.
Palm trees are not meant to be grown in the climate of 31st of all, please. How many people actually know that? The amount of water it takes is actually, you could grow 10 banyan trees.
Correct. And they are not of this particular environment, as he has mentioned.
You'd rather have banyan trees, you'd rather have neem trees, you'd rather have jamun trees instead. Correct. I mean,
and they are not the trees of this area.
More trees everywhere. Where are those more trees?
Yeah. And they are not the trees of this particular area. They are from the coastal areas. So from coastal areas, you are bringing the trees and planting it in your campuses just for show. And it has got no economic value. And they are also taking away most of your water, bringing your water level very low.
What gets measured gets managed.
Yes, that is why green audit for that. Yes.
I mean, I'm not going to take much time. I think the whole idea was, what do you mean by a green audit? I think there are people who can explain it better than me here, what a green audit means. Essentially, you're trying to monitor something, you're trying to see whether everything is in order, what are the checks and balances needed to maintain that order, and what needs to be remedied accordingly. So, that in its gist is pretty much how an audit works. And all audits are like that, whether it's a financial audit or an environmental audit. Now, what is the difference between the financial audit and environmental audit? There's something that is more easily measurable in a financial audit. You're just counting one item, whereas in an environmental audit, you would most probably be looking at far more items under consideration. What would these be? Look at the, for instance, quality of water that is being generated from any locality. Now, these are the kind of things that colleges can actually come together, pool in their own knowledge resources to work with. Water resources, what is the kind of waste being generated in a locality? You can easily go and examine it. I mean, those who can dirty their hands, for instance, can actually physically sort out waste and figure out what percentage of it is organic matter, what percentage of it is plastic, and what can be recycled out of that plastic, or how much of this is actual electronic waste. You know, there's a lot of electronic waste that goes into localities. People are not, even if they're aware, there is no real way for them to handle electronic waste because they don't know what to do with it.
Yeah,
they know batteries are bad, but they don't know what to do with the batteries.
That's where local Lexus is.
That is where people.
That is my experience. I can tell you, in a building environment, like in a residential building which has about 10 million square feet of area, you have to ensure that you have a dedicated room for waste management, where you can have dustbins of 5 different types. You can have wet waste, you can have dry waste, and you can have electronic waste. Then you can have a nexus, as you say, with the recycle vendor, and you sell that to the recycle vendor. He will generate an invoice, and then you can carry forward that, and then that's how you can.
See, exactly the point that we have this. The gap that is there that is dividing people from this knowledge needs to be bridged. Who are the people who can do it? The academicians will. There are all these colleges that are located in different localities. Why can't we reach out and talk about it? And just don't think that this is an exercise for doing good for people. You know, see, this is not just about doing good for people. Trust me. I don't know how many of you are aware. MHRD has recently come out with this whole Centers of Excellence initiative, where 50 universities will be actually made completely autonomous. And it will also, the only aspect that the MHRD is going to look at is the financial audit. Just the financial audit of the university or the institution. Now, that means institutions also have to raise their own money in some capacity, not just through fees, but also perhaps through consulting work. Some of the centers that have been identified are already doing it. But why can't it be extended to other places? Why can't all the colleges already start doing this? It's not about the ability to finance everything or every activity within the college. But at least you make a presence felt within the community while also generating enough money to fund some of these activities by themselves. I mean, that is something that everybody can think of. So I was saying, there are all these resources, and I'm sorry I forgot your name. Himanshu, what Himanshu has mentioned is actually particularly falling under the whole umbrella of compliance. There are all these guidelines, there are all these regulations, there are all these laws. Now you are academicians, you can read the law, you can read the policies, you can understand the guidelines and how they are to be implemented. People in the localities that you are nested in, they don't necessarily know that. They need help, they need guidance. Who is the best source for them? I mean, from the experience that I see, they would trust an academician any given day.
Yes. Okay, just one very important point, which is one of the 3 capacity building things Professor Narendra Kumar's thing. One is Kishorai Bhattacharya's thing, and the other one is the green audit thing. So there will be master classes, and this will be.
We are going to have capacity
yes,
building
this will be
sessions.
paid for by the CSR company or a government agency. So normally these training programs are quite expensive. So we will create a mechanism by which all environment teachers are built for capacity. But normally, there will be a compliance thing over here as well. So if somebody is being trained and suddenly goes away, we don't want that kind of non-accountability to happen. So we have to ensure that 4 community audits are done. Exact modules Rohit will work upon, and everyone will get into a compliance kind of a thing. That is for both Kishalai's and Dr. Kumar's thing as well. Okay, so we will create these work packages, and you will be given free of cost audit training. Okay, so I am not too sure if it is Six Sigma, for example, you will be read quite well. So there are various kinds of things. So essentially,
to the environment, in fact.
Yeah, sure.
So as in now that you know what is to be complied with, I mean, why we need to know what is to be complied with is because it gives us a metric to measure against. I mean, there are water quality standards, there are air quality standards, there are even noise standards that need to be maintained in any locality. How many of us are aware that actually standards for the amount of noise that we live in a society? Nobody even realizes it. I mean, it's not that somebody is forcefully absent-minded about it, or they're just ignoring it. They don't know what is to be done about it. They don't know what to check it against necessarily. I mean, on any given day, any society, even the most well-off societies in Delhi, actually have noise levels that are higher than the permissible standards. How many of us know that? I mean, these are the kind of things that academia can bring onto the table for the people to understand, and for them to take action on at that level. Of course, when it comes to an evaluation approach, what is it that needs? Why do we need to evaluate? Evaluation is where it tells us where actually we are going wrong or where we are going right. What are the measures that are needed and what is to be done? So we have all these management systems. There are loads of ISO standards that are specific to the environment, even to the energy, and there are also standards particular to say indoor air quality separately beyond the environmental standards. What are the standards? Can we refer them? What is the kind of audit training that is required? There are audits, training courses that are exclusively in these domains. However, the idea is to integrate all of them now, not to just have one thing being focused on at a time. Integrate them. The academic institutions can pool together internally with different institutions, with different experts from different colleges, and do it for various localities. Life cycle assessments, of course. This is particular for resource management, because when we are identifying, say, the kind of materials and waste that will be generated, and what is the impact of any product over its lifetime of any locality. These will not necessarily be by the standards that are already identified. We may have to identify community-specific assessment tools. But I mean, this is a step where a lot of us can come in, start talking. So I mean, this is in just brief, trying to explain how an audit would go about in a community. And of course, all thoughts are welcome, criticism is welcome. We can have a lot of discussion what it would mean exactly to each locality. And I do believe that locality-specific variations will happen. Somebody would be better, somebody would be managing their waste better, somebody would be managing wastewater better, somebody would have better air quality.
Part of experiential learning, session 3.
Okay. Okay, thank you so much everyone for coming today to the conclave. This is not the end of the conclave, this is actually the start of a very strong work. We are actually envisaging a 5-year kind of a time horizon with 7 nodal resilience centers with unlimited number of expert interventions, okay, and the work packages, etc. The work will start. There are various kinds of work packages. There are actually 3 kinds of work packages which we will tell you shortly.
So this will come when we are going to meet after this conclave. To the people who are the part of the consortium, because these are very detailed things and very research based, and output is there. So we are looking for the partners only to come and become part of that. So
absolutely.
Of course, need time and everything. So this is what. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, and I wish you that we.
And looking forward to have you part of the consortium.
Yes.
Also.
Looking forward.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.